this is a draft to build for the future, to be able to make sure we have that young talent continuously going.
Sure.
That we can keep growing and keep having some guys that can get on the field and make impacts down the road when we do lose, say, a Khalil Mack, or we do lose, say, Joey Bosa, or we do lose, like, all these guys. I think that we do just have to think this is a further down the kind of draft for us to be able to build up a couple guys that could do impacts or have some impact right now. Right. But it's for us to grow out for the future. And, I mean, we even have to think about Rashawn Slater's contract if he keeps the trajectory where he's going.
Joke, man.
I mean, that could be a crazy contract, too.
That could be a gigantic contract. Yeah, agreed.
So we don't know. But Bolt Bros here. Once again, we're here to be able to talk a little bit about what Mike Clay tweeted out. Basically kind of I call it heat map or a positional ranking map for all teams in the NFL. And then we're going to kind of talk about our team, Chargers, obviously, and then talk about what does this mean for our draft. So let's go. Bolt Bros. Let's go.
Bolt Bros.
Bolt Bros.
Let's go. Chargers.
You know, it's interesting looking at this map and just seeing how we improved. The one thing that I really wanted to be able to see is what we were last year too, and we had that previous video that we kind of broke down our positional rankings, so we know where our defense was. So it's probably not a very great looking map to look at. So
exactly.
But I know when we started this call, we started talking a little bit about Kaiser White and just keeping that as an update. I mean, you know, he did pretty good last year for us. And what did he end up going for again? I think to the Eagles. What was the contract again? Something like that.
Up to $5 million. So it's not a guaranteed $5 million. So I mean, obviously, and that's my problem with it. I mean, is it like we totally could have afforded him to keep him around. You know, like maybe shifted him to the other side. I mean, 'cause clearly we picked up Khalil Mack, so like we kind of didn't really need to fill that side anymore. Like didn't need to keep such a good talent like him on board, but I don't know. I think it would have been good to keep him and maybe just shift him around or whatever. Like,
yeah. I mean, he had a whole heck of a lot of tackles. He had some forced fumbles. I mean, he seemed to do pretty well, you know. And for up to 5 years, it's basically an incentive-based type contract.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, I mean, I'd think that'd be a reason for us to bring him back for that price, but. Right. I guess they decided to move on from him. And once again, I think this is the year of trying to figure out Brandon Staley's guys.
True.
And this is only his second year. And so first year was figure out his defense, who's going to fit. And then second year is going to figure out the guys that he wants in that will fit. And so I think that's kind of one of our loss. And we had to, you know, let Kaiser White go. And a lot of fans are pretty mad about that move. And I mean, I think Andy even chatted about how he's a little bit bummed on that one.
Yeah, I think it's probably one of the weirdest things that you saw happen so far this offseason, I would say, because he was such a bellwether for us, right? He was absolutely our guy. Because the K9 didn't have a great year.
Yeah.
Drew Tranquil was hurt quite a bit. You know, he was pretty much our guy, you know. But I think the net is this, though, right? With Khalil Mack there, that's kind of that role, right? That's also why we didn't sign Nwosu as well anyways, right? Because, we got Khalil Mack. He fills a lot of different needs. Now, the concern, though, is, boy, what if Khalil Mack gets hurt this next year?
Right.
Then we are in a bad position. But you cannot ever really expect that to happen. And injuries do happen. It's football, right? But, you know, it really boils down to depth. I want to talk a little bit about this heat map. It's interesting how we moved up so high on this. We're ranked 5th overall.
Yeah.
Which is pretty amazing to me, considering how horrible we were last year in defense.
Especially
right?
Defense,
I mean, it's crazy, right? I mean, and I look at this and go, wow. I mean, this is one man's opinion, but it's a fairly comprehensive breakdown of where we sit right now. And I think it does give, to your point, James. The whole point is for this video is that it gives us an opportunity to really look at what we need moving forward.
Yep.
That we need to fill in within the draft, because make no mistake about it, it's just going to be depth for the draft anyways for us.
Yep, absolutely. And what's crazy about it is that even with the signings that we've made, I mean, you even look at the defensive line and being kind of one of the biggest weaknesses on the defense, which you're thinking, didn't we make some good moves at that position? But it makes you think, like, man, we really do still need to work on that area. And just like we were saying when we lost Kaiser White, I mean, our linebackers are at 1, which it's still very cold at that point. So,
yeah.
But we have those 2 positions of needs that we really, really need to focus on, and I do think that the draft will kind of fulfill those. I don't know, expect us to do much more moves in those free agency areas for those, but those are positions of needs for us. I mean, we still are ranked at number 8 per this map for unit grades in the league, which is pretty solid. I mean, it's better than any other team in the AFC West, just to give you an idea.
True. Yeah.
So, and I do still feel defense is going to win this division. So, so we're not doing bad. So, I don't know. What's your thoughts on that, Kyle? Looking just briefly at that map, anything that you kind of pulled up on you?
Well, I mean, clearly right now it's showing that our tight end, our defensive line, and linebacker positions are all the weakest points. And I'm not too sure about that. I mean, especially for the tight end side, it looks to me because we picked up Everett, and he's a solid pickup for us. He gets a really good person. I mean, obviously, it's not an Antonio Gates or it's not a Travis Kelce type of person. But that's not really our scheme. So we don't necessarily need to have a really pass reliant tight end for that. So it's like, okay. But it would be good, obviously, to have the ball just to dump it to whatever, get a few blocks in. Maybe he just kind of goes out on that little that flat, and just something like that. But yeah, like we did make some pickups in this regard, and it didn't it doesn't look like actually they reflected those things so much, I guess. Well, but from this map itself, it really does look like that's probably where we're going to go for the draft, and not necessarily just for depth. I think also for longevity too, because I mean, obviously we do have some aging players in those positions, and the biggest thing too is like, well, we also have a quarterback that we want to protect. So there could be someone there that we might want to pick up to protect him for a couple more years than not. So.
Well, and that's the interesting thing about this map too. When you start looking at that, and they rate our offensive line at 2.9, which is one of the higher of the offensive rankings.
Right.
Yeah.
Where you think, man, we got that right line that we don't even know who's the right side of that line, who's going to be there, kind of thing. I mean, Brandon Hymas has been one of those guys who drafted last year, so he's considered as a Staley guy.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, we have Trey Pipkin, who's got a little bit of like buzz at, is he going to be the guy for right tackle? I mean, Storm Norton, we all know what he was last year. And then you hear about what Matt Fiedler moving to right tackle too.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of like shifting pieces in that point, but to be able to have it ranked at a 2.9, like it's pretty solid to give us like a total offensive ranking as a team. As what are we at there? Third in the league.
Third in the league. Yeah.
Pretty amazing.
And again, but I also think too, when you start talking about tight ends, I think we have plenty of depth there, right? Trey McKitty is more of a blocking tight end. He's got decent hands. Parham is more of a touchdown catching tight end, I think.
Yeah.
Good red zone target.
I think Gerald Everett will be a mixture of both. Yep. So, but again, I think it will be interesting. It seems to me like the offensive line specifically, the Chargers have a solution in place. I think you're right. Bringing Hymas in to do something, he'll probably maybe be one of the guards, and then maybe move Matt Fiedler over, and then just find another guard to fit in the role there as well. I mean, I think there's plenty of guys there that they can place in. And Trey Pipkins, look, he did great when he came in twice last year. I was shocked that he did well because the year before he was absolutely horrible. Yeah. But it's amazing seeing him improve from one year to the next. So, again, I think this heat map is kind of interesting to see where we really sit now. I mean, this is one man's opinion, but we definitely moved up the rankings overall, which is, makes us a competitive team on paper, right?
On paper,
yeah. That's the biggest thing on paper. Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, it's not just this guy's opinion though, too. I mean, I have looked into some of the other, like the power rankings. We did, obviously we ended the season at ranked 17th overall. But I think a lot of people have showed from like, CBS, NBC, I think even ESPN, like we are now in that top 10 overall. So I mean, of course that's relative because obviously The season hasn't even started yet. Haven't even drafted yet. You know, nothing's going. But that's just what people seem to think, though. That obviously, like we're definitely contenders potentially now in the Super Bowl. Maybe. I want to say so. Yeah. But definitely in this division.
Well, no, we definitely are a contender.
Yeah,
we are. If we don't make it, then it's going to be a big disaster for us for sure. I mean, like literally. Yeah, we need to be
right.
Yeah, I mean, we've made a lot of championship-based moves to be able to build a championship-ready team, and so that's the thing that's interesting about this. That it's really, really key for us to be able to get to the playoffs. Minimum, personally, I think minimum's AFC West AFC Championship game, and then see if we can win that to go into the Super Bowl, which would be incredible. But
we already called that. It's going to be the Chargers and Bills, man.
For the AFC Championship?
AFC Championship, yeah.
Dude, that would be an incredible game.
That would be a fun game. Yeah,
that would be an incredible game. I mean, two great quarterbacks, good defenses. I mean, that would be phenomenal. You don't want to play that out in Buffalo, though.
No.
It'll be real cold out there.
We don't want to play in Buffalo.
No.
We want to play in LA.
Yep. Let's make sure we get that top seed there, baby.
Yeah, play in LA. Make it even for both of us here.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about our defensive line quite a bit too, right? And I was thinking about, like, I'm not a huge fan of Jerry Tillery. I don't think he really fits well within our scheme. Yeah. I think he's going to be there for depth for the most part next year, which is kind of sad. And I could even see us maybe trading him off somewhere as well, too. That would be kind of interesting to see if we could trade him. Whether that happens or not, who knows, right? But, Austin Johnson, SJD, and Fehoko did really well when he came in.
Yes, he did.
He
really did.
I was very impressed with him. I was like, man, maybe this is the opportunity for him to step up and be our guy, right? You never really know. But I think our defensive line is definitely going to be a more Brandon Staley type of defensive line, right? Because, again, the whole point of those three guys up front is really to just cause, mayhem, confusion, block those gaps, make those running lanes a little tight so the running backs can't run the ball. So,
Well, and the one thing that's interesting about it is the one guy that they did come back and sign with the D-line and they let Justin Jones go. Yeah. They brought back Christian Covington.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of an interesting thing to see that it was really only one guy came back from that line. Now, once again, we had a horrible defensive line.
Yeah, we did.
That's where we had to make changes. Yeah. And so it's interesting that at least one guy that they re-signed to come back for that line. So he liked what he saw from him. So, I mean, once again, this is Brandon Staley building his defense, and this is the year he's doing that, and we could all see that's happening right now.
Yeah, and it goes back to that video that I think I brought out, is that I really do think that the first year, let's fix the offensive line and fix the offense. I think it's easier to fix an offense. It's much more difficult to fix a defense specifically, and I think last year was a perfect example of that. You had Gus Bradley's defense, the 4-3 scheme, 4-3 players.
Yeah.
It's a much more difficult, system to run. And I think he needed another year with some of these guys. And again, maybe going back to Kaiser White, right? I don't want to beat a dead horse here. Maybe there was some things that he wasn't doing right. Yeah, he got good numbers, good stats, but maybe he just wasn't quite the linebacker or didn't quite fill the role that Brandon Staley wants moving forward.
Well, on that thought, I've looked into a lot of it too. Is like really Brandon Staley doesn't really rely on linebackers too much. No. Anyways, I think James pointed out a couple times that he runs more like a 5-2 type of deep front end, the box. And so the linebacker's not going to be as critical when you have like 5 big guys up front. And so maybe that's just it, but that actually makes me realize too is that okay, and also looking at the heat map again, linebacker's also a point of weakness. So that's that's just not part of Staley's defensive package. Obviously, we have the outsides are like the more important parts than the insides. So I don't know. But I will kind of give also credit to Murray though, because he did really well with that his first year with us. However, going back on that, it also was a completely different scheme. That was a Gus Bradley scheme. So we gotta put that into account. So maybe Kenneth Murray also is not actually fitting well to Brandon Staley's defense.
And the thing is, what's interesting about Kenneth Murray, when he did get drafted, I remember watching his highlights at Oklahoma. I mean, he was an attacking linebacker. He would attack the line, attack the rusher. He was very, very aggressive at the line. And for some reason or another, maybe it's just a different scheme that he's just having a hard time to really figure that out.
Sure.
But if he could figure that out, he could be a fantastic linebacker for us. And once again, second year slump. We'll just hope that that's the case. And third year is going to be his stronger year, and he'll get back to what he was season one. Yeah. So, who knows? I mean, in one of the other linebackers on the team too, I kind of look at Chris Rump too, and I think he did pretty good. And he's a Brandon Staley guy. He got drafted when Brandon Staley came in.
Yeah,
so
you're right.
And I kind of look at that as like, hey, he could be another guy that could really step it up too. Nick Neiman was another guy that we drafted too last year too. Well. So, and he had a little bit of field time also. So, I don't know. I think the linebacker position could be a little critical at this moment, but I do think that it would be nice to be able to have one more solid guy in that area.
Sure.
Depth purposes and future purposes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a really good point, though, and maybe we could just wrap up here on this, and then we can move on to the needs of the draft, right? But the reality is this, I think we have the right people there on the defensive side of the ball to be a top 10, top maybe 5 defense next year. That, with our offense, forget about it, guys. I mean, we'll be competitive in every single game, and we'll see some blowouts. I mean, I'm kind of excited to see that, a game where we don't have a heart attack halfway through it, right? The Chargers-Steelers game, Kyle, where you and I were at, we were like, oh, my gosh, man, you got to be kidding me.
Hey, man, that was a hell of a lot of fun, man. I tell you what.
It was amazing.
That building, that was electric. That's
a ride. You're like on a roller coaster the whole time.
It was nuts, man. It was. To this day, I still keep thinking about that game. That was one of my most favorite games I've ever been at. So,
best thing about that game though is that they didn't use those terrible freaking stupid towels like that much. Those things are so freaking annoying.
Terrible
man.
towels.
Oh, yeah, the terrible towels. Yeah,
terror towels, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Terrible towels. Terrible towels.
Yeah.
No, so I think bottom line though, I think we now know really the mind of Brandon Staley and what he really needs moving forward. And again, we could argue both ways. Like, I think there's a lot of things that happen that we don't know as fans, right? Okay, maybe he missed assignment here, missed assignment there, whatever. Sure. But I think these are the guys, right? And I think they're great. But I think moving on to the draft, now we talk about the draft. I think all they're going to really do in the draft is just get depth, period, right? And guys, we've said this so many times, Tom Telesco is so good at finding depth way down in the charts, right? Yep. And I mean, I just kind of feel like we're just going to plug in a few holes for depth across the line. Maybe a lineman here, a linebacker here.
Yeah. Maybe
a wide receiver here, maybe a tight end, who knows? But at the end of the day, I think they're just going to go best available. I mean, James, what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, and when you look at these charts and you think, hey, if Brandon Staley's kind of a statistics guy, and looking at the numbers of things, I mean, if he pays attention to this, you think, well, first 3 picks are probably going to be tight end, defensive line, and linebacker, and that's where we're going to go for the first 3 picks. Now, I do think that when I started looking at some of these mock drafts, and I'm just I mean, there's so many different opinions out there of where we could go with. So nothing really could be like clean cut and dry. We know where we're going. Mm-hmm. I mean, we have 10 picks to be able to choose from.
Yeah.
I mean, 17th for first, third, and a fourth, and it continues from there.
Yeah.
We have a lot of choices here. And I think that we do have some great options here to be able to focus on those needs if we need those needs. I don't know. I mean, everybody talks about Jordan Davis at pick 17. I don't think he's going to be there by that time.
Really?
Trevor Penning is another guy. Yep. Charles Cross is one guy that I keep seeing too, which I've seen him in top 10 picks, which is really strange.
Yeah.
But Devin Lloyd's another guy from Utah, linebacker. Mm-hmm. I've been pretty high on that guy too.
Yeah.
So it's just going to be an interesting thing to see where we're going to go with this. Are we going to go based upon this heat map or this positional ranking right now or not? Or is it going to be best player available? I know Andy and I talked a little bit about that. Might be just best player available.
Yeah.
I mean, what's your thoughts on that, Kyle?
Well, yeah, like, I mean, there's quite a bit of players, like in that I would love to see the Chargers pick up, even not just for depth, but for like longevity of trying to keep solidify a position there. But I mean, I do like a lot of the draft boards that I do see Trevor Penning available still for us. I see even Bernard Ryman. He's a pretty good one, a tackle from Central Michigan who would be a really good pickup as well. And I do see Jordan Davis as well available, and surprisingly too, even Chris Olave. Like he was one of the fastest wide receivers on the draft. But then again, I mean, that's not the most important thing about a wide receiver is how fast they are, And I mean, I feel like it really could be a best available position for our 17th pick. I mean, however, I mean, let's just say who I think we might want to pick up, though. I mean, I really feel like we should. I don't know. It's a hard one. Maybe we should get back to that one. Circle around on that one. But
well, and it's very hard because I mean, even how you brought up Chris Olave, like, you think about some people are talking a little bit about, hey, is this Keenan Allen's last year with the Chargers kind of thing? Because they need to start making financial decisions at some point.
Yeah.
And
he's getting paid a lot.
He's getting paid a lot. I mean, he's getting a little bit older. Like, is it time to kind of move on from him? I mean, he's a solid receiver. We all know that. Yeah. He did have a fair amount of drops last year, but I do think that Justin Herbert just throws heat at people. I mean, I mean, I watched like
piss missiles. They're called piss missiles.
That's right.
That's right. 70-yard piss missile.
Oh no, man! I always picture like dodgeball when you're playing that game from the Nintendo. Like one guy that does the super one, and it's literally just like that. It's like a freaking line, and it just goes through everybody. Like it's like
That game was great. What was that, Super Dodgeball or something like that?
Super Dodgeball, baby. Yeah.
Oh, so good. Such a good game.
But you're right. I think I personally think here's the thing. I've actually been seeing a lot of mock drafts too, where we're actually trading down. We might even let's say Penning and one of our guys, maybe Lloyd's off the table, and it just does not go our way. I could see us moving down, trading down, maybe get a couple of second-round picks, maybe an extra third. Because what I've seen a lot of people talk about as far as mock drafts is concerned is that there's a lot of depth across the board, right? Not a lot of quarterbacks, which is kind of unusual, but you can definitely say, well, there's a lot of defensive linemen. There's a lot of linebackers that look really good. There's a lot of cornerbacks, and I personally think just the overall thesis of this draft is just going to be, let's get the best available depth. If we trade down, it might be beneficial for us. And I think they might do it. Because again, I don't think there's a lot of huge needs. I mean, yes, it's nice to have maybe another right tackle, but again, how often do you get a left tackle like a Rashawn Slater? That comes in and is in a Pro Bowl or his first year. That just doesn't happen very often. So maybe drafting down, getting some more depth, a little later on in the rounds could be a good thing. So again, I've seen a lot of that, right? Seen a lot of that.
Yeah. And it's kind of an interesting thing because what I'm looking at this draft as is we know that we have to pay Justin Herbert, and hopefully we're not going to have to pay him these crazy $50 million base year type contracts because we're seeing a lot of these players such as, how the Packers, they don't even have a wide receiver on that team that I know of.
They're in trouble.
They're in trouble. They had to pay Aaron Rodgers a crazy amount of money. I don't even know who a wide receiver's on that team.
Well, not only that, I mean, look at the Chiefs now.
Right.
They had to let Tyreek Hill go because they probably can't afford the guy. They're like, oh, we can't afford this dude, so we may as well get something for him now. And they wanted to keep him, but they also 100%. Knew that there was no way that they could continue to afford him. So again, the Herbert conversation's big. This is why we're making a splash now, so we can have him on the cheap, make a run for the Super Bowl, but build depth because eventually there's going to be a larger conversation, him getting paid big money. And let's hope it's reasonable, I hope it's reasonable.
Yeah.
So. I agree. And I hope that we have a little bit of that hometown discount in a sense. But, hey, it is what it is. And this is a business and people want to get paid and, they want to get that money. That's why they're in the league, man. Oh, the one thing I know we chatted a little bit about some of the draft in the first round, kind of some of the players that we're seeing that could fill some of these needs. I mean, you got your right tackle, your defensive line, linebackers. Tight end, I think, is a little early to be able to look at in the first round, in my opinion. But third round, one guy that I know a lot of fans after the combine talked about as a Greg Dulcich or something like that. I think is how you pronounce his last name, the tight end from UCLA.
Oh yeah.
Local product for the Chargers. I mean, they probably had eyes on the guy the whole season.
That's possible.
A lot of speed from the guy. From what I'm seeing, people seem to be very, very high on him. And I saw some mock drafts that he was available in the 3rd round. So,
yeah.
I mean, if they do want to attack that position, he could be there at 3rd round for us.
Okay.
Is it Darian Kennard, offensive tackle from Kentucky? Travis Jones is another guy that I've seen for the defensive line.
Mm-hmm.
And even Quay Walker from Georgia too, and I've been a big fan of those Georgia linebackers.
Yeah, anybody from Georgia we want.
Anyone on defense for Georgia, like I do love that pick for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, and again, again, we're beating kind of a dead horse in the sense that we continually say, hey, look, this is going to be depth, but it really is, right? We've already picked up most of our players, right? I mean, Khalil Mack's a great example, right? We didn't need Nwosu after that point. We really didn't need Kaiser White at that point because we got Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa, and we can't afford them long term anyways. Yep. So, we may as well just, get some more depth in this draft and give other players an opportunity to step into that role, right? And what are they going to give us moving forward, right? So, but again, there's a ton of linemen that we can draft as well too. There's a bunch of people. From the guy from Minnesota looks amazing. Falele, I think is his name. He's incredible. I remember seeing him play during the game, and they were just hyping him up like crazy. So again, and this is partially why I keep thinking, look, I think we have enough talent on the line now, but just having some additional draft for depth, for injuries, that matters, especially when you get into the playoffs, right? You have to have depth.
Oh yeah, especially when we throw it back to the Texans game.
Exactly correct.
Our depth
was so frustrating.
Was really frustrating. I mean, both teams were basically running their B teams, but but we ended up losing that game still. And I was like, what a joke.
I mean, I remember when we were watching that game, we were watching it all together, and we were just like, what is happening right now? Like, how does this even possible? I mean, we were just getting beat around, like, so bad. I mean, the food we were eating didn't taste very good after that.
I wanted to grab my plate and say, what the heck is this? Get this out of here.
Get that cone out of my face.
Get out of here. I want to dine and dash,
Yeah, we're done with this.
Yeah, so it was just that really exposed our depth. And like to what you're saying, Andy, this is what this draft is all about. Get that depth. So if we had a situation like that, we have guys that could step up and play for us. And so, but and I know we've chatted a little bit about the right tackle too. I mean, are we going to stick with our guys here? Once again, Matt Filer could be that guy to go to right tackle. Storm Norton, is he that guy? I don't think so, in my opinion. There's been a little bit of talk about Trey Pipkins finally stepping up to be that position, and he played well too. So, is it really a need for us, or do we have our guys already for that?
Yeah, I kind of like the idea of moving Filer over to right tackle, and then filling in Storm Norton and maybe Trey Pipkins as the guards. That would make a lot of sense to me because there'd be a little less work for them. Moving forward. And then, got Hymas as well, too. Hymas is really good. He's done very well. I think he looked good, and I think he could step in as that role. But I do think we're going to pick a couple more people from the line, and we'll see kind of what's available and go from there. But it'd be really interesting to see what we end up doing in the draft with these guys. I was a little disappointed we didn't get anybody up in free agency. I kind of expected us to, but I think a lot of the dollar signings that were there for right tackle were big money, and I think it was way over what we wanted to spend. So I think it was a bit out of our budget. We had to sort of choose where we're going to put our money judiciously.
Yeah, and we could always even look back at seeing if we get Ode Obushi back too. I mean, and I think, to be honest, would be a fantastic pickup once again. I think our line
I like that guy.
Extremely solid when he was in there. So, I mean, hopefully his knee's doing fine. Hopefully all that's going well. And I'm sure we're keeping our eye on him. So that's something there. But, one thing I was thinking about this, and since we did give up our second-round pick this year for Khalil Mack, which I think is a fantastic pickup. I mean, it's going to be great to be able to see him and Bosa on the field. So what if we did trade back, and what can we get for a second rounder? I'm seeing guys out there that are pretty solid. I've seen Devontae Wyatt out there. Johan Dotson, I think is how you say his last name, wide receiver from Penn State.
Yeah.
Yep.
Not a huge need for us, but it's, once again, best player available possibly for us.
Right.
And thinking for the next year. Trey McBride, tight end from Colorado State. I think he was actually considered as one of the top tight ends in this draft, too.
Yep.
Bernard Raymond, offensive tackle from Central Michigan, another guy. Drake Johnson from USC. There's a lot of guys out there that are kind of popping up on the second round that you're thinking, man, if we could keep a first, trade back, or even get 2 seconds, we could really get some guys that could be impactful guys for now and for the future. So I think it's not a bad strategy, in my opinion. Somebody wants to trade us and give us a second, let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that makes sense. It really will boil. See, the draft is always interesting to me, and all these mock drafts, they change all the time. You never really know what's going to happen because every team has different needs, right? Every team, hey, I need a lineman, I need a linebacker, I need an edge rusher, I need this and that, I need a quarterback, right? So depending on what's ahead of you, really kind of dictates what you end up getting moving forward. Anyways,
True.
Having said that, again, we've already discussed this. This draft has so much depth across the board. And Telesco and Staley, I guarantee, are going to be absolutely lights out in getting the right available player at any given moment. So I think they can trade back and just get more value in some of the second and third rounds potentially if we do end up going that direction. I know a lot of people wouldn't really want that. I personally think it's a good move because I think we've done very well in the past. So that's just my 2 cents on it.
Well,
that's kind of yet to be determined, though, too, like how well we've done in the past. We still, Kenneth Murray still has to prove himself. Justin Tillery still has to prove himself, really.
Jerry Tillery?
Did you Jerry Tillery
that up, dude?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, there it is.
Justin Herbert's still on the mind.
Oh, no, it's just...
Justin Herbert?
I was thinking of Justin Jones.
Herbert?
Justin Jones and Jerry Tillery. Yeah, so...
Come on, man.
But there's, I don't know, I'm kind of always shaky on the draft so far. I don't feel like we ever really do too many crazy things. Obviously we traded up to get Kenneth Murray, and that I don't know how well of a good move that was for us, though. But thinking about the third round, we have I'm doing a mock draft and stuff over here as well, and I'm seeing a lot of times Dylan Parham as a guard that is available for us at that point, and he's ranked pretty high at 67. But then he's typically a lot of draft boards actually put him on our for us falls at the 79th pick overall, and that could actually be a really good spot because once again that could be another player to go to that right guard for us to potentially, shore up that side. And that could be a good one for us to pick up in that third round, I think,
Yeah. Yeah, and once again, if we look at the heat map, kind of what we chatted about earlier, is that really going to be a full need for us? And as a fan, we definitely have a need there.
Right.
Brandon Hymas is another guy that we have to think about, too, that he didn't really get any field time last year, but are they just training him to be able to be ready for the second year on his agreement or his contract? So he could be a guy that could really fill that gap too for us. But what I'm saying with just the whole trade back situation is there's a lot of talent in the second round that we could really fill the gaps with too.
Yeah.
Even if we keep a first, kind of a later first, and still get kind of maybe an earlier second or even a later second, I think we have the opportunity to be able to add more firepower to this team and really complete this team a little bit more. So. But any final thoughts, Andy? Any final thoughts to this?
Yeah, I would just say final thoughts, right? Wrapping everything up. I really do think this heat map does demonstrate that we did very well in the free agent market, right? Obviously the additions we have, we're looking great. Finally, I really think it's just going to be all about best available player and whoever we get, right? I don't feel like I feel like they've already set the team as it stands now. The draft is just going to be gravy, right? It's just going to be the cherry on top. It's going to be the whipped cream on top. That's all it's going to be. And, you don't want to diminish these players coming into the team, but at the end of the day, you got to know that there's a veteran in front of you.
Yeah.
You're going to be the guy behind for the most part, learning the system and getting ready for maybe year 2, year 3 starting position, right? And so that's really my final thoughts with this episode.
Kyle, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I always kind of tend to feel like for the draft, I don't really feel like it's just going to be depth. Still not to really just beat the horse on that. I mean, you guys keep saying depth. I feel like we're going for longevity of positions, and so that could very well mean that a wide receiver is the better option, because if we get somebody that is really good now, and we might have to let go of Keenan Allen in order to work out some of these other contracts for some people, then that could actually be a really good choice for us as well, because like you said, Keenan Allen is amazing. He's one of the top route runners, and
absolutely
breaks every corner's like ankles all day long, but he's getting older, and like James said, maybe he's getting a little squishy hands now because he's got been dropping some passes here and there. But
my final thought. I mean, there's a lot of choices out there with the draft. I mean, once again, we all know the draft is a complete crapshoot. I mean, even to say going back to the Rams and then talking about F them draft picks and send it off to get talent on the team or whatnot.
Yep.
Even to say when Dallas for Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill said that on his introduction. Like F them draft picks. So it becomes this theme now all of a sudden.
Yep.
What is the future of the draft now? Are these guys going to have tons of different picks in there now? And, it's just going to pick up a bunch of young talent, because a lot of these teams seem to just want to pick up veteran guys now. So, my final thought is I'm excited to see where this goes. And I do think the Chargers have a lot of great options. I mean, we have 10 picks to work with. I mean, that's a lot to add to this team.
And still undrafted free agents as well, too. People that did not
do well at that. Yeah, we do well with that. I mean, Austin Eckler, Michael Davis. That's another guy that we got. Eckler. I mean, great. I mean, those are excellent players. I mean, there's an ability to hear that we could really build this team for a longevity with this draft. That's where I feel like this is a very critical draft. I mean, having 10 picks, I think we have a lot of ability to make a lot of depth here. So, and a lot of great moves. So I'm excited for it. Just want to wrap it up. Subscribe, like this video, share this video. We love seeing your guys' comments. There's a lot of comments there. We like to respond to you. So, Bolt Bros, let's go.
Let's
go.
Out,
bro. Actually. We out. Let's go.
Let's get out of here.
We talk about Derek Carr all the time, but I don't know. I mean, is he really worth that much money? I mean, come on now.
Mm-hmm. Just because he got to the playoffs last year, I don't think that's going to warrant five-year $200 million. He's not going to get that Aaron Rodgers money, man.
That's crazy.
That's crazy. I mean, these quarterback contracts are getting out of hand, but